Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here. Hope you guys are doing great. Everybody having a good week so far. How was the weekend for everyone? Did you guys have as awesome of a weekend as I had? Oh my God, let me tell you what. Y'all, I know you guys have different conventions, you know, depending on where you're at. There's certain conventions like Scarefest, they don't come out here. I know that Mad Monster kind of goes all over the place. I would imagine that they try to bring as many of the same people to every city as they can in that given year. If you are able to check out Mad Monster in a city near you or in your hometown, I absolutely recommend that you check it out. It is such an awesome time. I'm sure if you guys hopped on that live stream or if you checked it out after the fact, I went live on Friday, had an absolute blast. Maybe had too much fun on Friday night, but the whole con was super killer. And yeah, I don't know if I feel like right now I'm still on cloud 9, but I tell you what, like when I just sit there and think about it, I'm like, oh no, do I have post-con depression? Like, it's tough, guys. Like when I came back from H45 a few years ago or a couple years ago, it was like that whole next week was really tough because I missed everyone and I missed living that, basking in all the horror goodness kind of life, So anyways, guys, I'm sure you can see, right? So you see the awesome tombstone there, the gravestone that Dave Vanderhoff made for me. Right there, we've got my signature. It's like the Halloween 5 cover from Danielle Harris. And then right there, you can see my Jason mask, and you might see some black markings on it because I've got 6 signatures on there now. If you haven't seen any of that stuff, you can follow me on Instagram and check it out. The links for my social media are down below. Actually, no, they're not. So let me throw them in there because that's kind of hilarious. Usually I'm so good at putting all that stuff in the description. But we'll get to all the crazy Superman spoiler stuff, guys. So don't worry. I will say this. Once I start talking, I mean, everything's on the table here. So I don't want anyone acting upset if something gets spoiled that they don't know already, because you're showing up to this stream that's called All the Spoilers. So so no excuses. You accept full responsibility if you continue hanging out from this point moving forward. But yeah, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, follow me on Insta or Twitter or something like that if you want to see those pictures. I'm thinking about doing do you guys want to see me? Should I do like a pre-recorded video and show off my stuff for Mad Monster, or do you guys want a live stream about Mad Monster, or should I just shut the hell up because I've already talked about it enough? I have a way to resolve this issue. Let's do yeah, there we go. I'll set this for 2 hours. I'll host a Mad Monster wrap-up live stream or pre-recorded vid. Your pick. So I'm going to do a little super chat goal. Why the hell not? I don't even know how many people are going to hang out here. So 10 super chats at $2 a piece. Whatever. Maybe that's lofty. I don't care. Not saying I won't do it if you guys don't reach the goal. I'm just curious to know if you want me to do a live stream. Those are pretty fun. I love hanging out with you guys and just being able to answer any questions you might have about the con or anything like that. Of course, I can also do it as a pre-recorded video. I hope did you guys check out my Superman review? I feel like I'm getting a little more comfortable on those pre-recorded videos. I feel so comfortable going live with you guys. But when I do my pre-recorded videos, I put a lot of pressure on myself to speak eloquently and have good analysis and everything. So I'm more focused on the talking and not so much the personality and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys like the live stream kind of thing, then maybe you want me to do a Mad Monster live stream. I don't know. But let me know. I can give you guys a better look at that Jason mask up there. And of course, the Danielle Harris signature as well. So I'm going to say what's up to everybody, and then we are going to get into spoilers. I don't think there's anything else to talk about here before we get into it. Chester Franklin says, had a good stream. I got wrestling stream to tune in for. Oh, have a good stream. All right. Well, Chester, you enjoy the wrestling, my friend. Enjoy. We got Adrian James in the chat. What's happening? Adrian, how you doing? One of our great channel members, Antonis Andriotis, Says, I've not seen Superman 2025, so I'll stay until the spoilers start. All right. We got Ashton Luck in the house. What's happening, Ashton? Great to see you. I know you checked out the film this weekend. Gene, how are you doing? I hope you had a great day as well, miss. Did you see Superman? Guys, let me know in the chat if you've seen Superman. I am curious to know. And yeah, I just noticed this. As far as I know, there was no way for me to start it myself. I don't know how this started, but yeah, we've got our cool little I don't even, what do they call this thing with the crowns? Like the chat. It's like a chat game kind of thing where you get points. So I see Chester is number 1. He's got the main crown. Adrian James is number 2. So I think it just basically gives you points for how many chats you drop. But pretty cool. YouTube must finally think I'm cool or something. And Gene says, because I am cool. Oh, Gene, you're too sweet. What's happening, Brad? How are you doing, man? Great to see you. We got our great Patreon member and channel member, Dean Renner, in the house. How are you doing, Dean? Hang for a little while. Still have to see the Corrin Sweat. Got to see the Corrin Sweat in theaters. Yeah, dude, it's really good. I was even thinking about checking it out tonight after this stream, but we'll just see because I might have some other YouTube related stuff that I need to get into. And also, I know that you guys have heard me talk from time to time about my zombie story, Dead Winter. So I am finally putting boots to the ground on that. So I might spend some time working on that because I want to do a graphic novel and then see what it can turn into from there. We got Gory Tiger in the chat. What's happening, Gory? How are you doing? Great to see ya. We got Maxwell King. What's happening, Maxwell? So good to see you, my man. Guys, if you haven't checked out Maxwell's channel, go give him a peep over there on the YouTube. Dean also has a channel called Enter the Cinevault. Very, very good shit. I love Dean's channel. I love Dean. What can I say? I'm a big fan. All right, guys. So what? We just got a handful of people in here. So I figured it would be relatively light because we're talking spoilers. And I know that not everyone's seen it. Also, right before I hopped in here, I was like, oh, geez, Our Life in Horror is live. And they've got a hop-in chat room going on over there. So good for those guys. I love Brendan and Sam. They are excellent. I had no idea they were going live. I just knew I wasn't able to make it yesterday for you guys, but I'm able to make it today. So so super pumped to be hanging out with you guys. What's happening, Blazing Asian? How you doing? Okay, guys, so we're going to get into it. So this is pretty much the only warning I'm going to give you. Like, if you have not seen Superman, like I'm about to put a banner up on here. Guys, I'm going to talk about my negatives right away. Because the other night, when I went live with Chris Stanley and Adam Does Movies, Lee from Drum Dums, we were on the horror show channel with Cecil. I didn't get into very many of my negatives because to get into them would have been kind of spoiler territory. And I want to be really light on spoilers because, like, I love, there's a certain channel out there. I'm not going to say any channel name. There's a massive channel out there. They're not even going to know. I love Film Threat. Really, really dig them. Good stuff. However, they went live like the night that the movie debuted at 10 p.m. Pacific time, and it was like no spoilers, all that stuff. And then seriously, the way their conversation started was, all right, so at the beginning of the movie, Superman's just gotten his ass beat, and you're fine. Like, I'm just like, oh my, what do you like? So when you tell people how the movie starts, I think that's kind of a spoiler. So I don't know. So that's why I just try to really not be spoilery unless I'm outright telling you, hey, there's going to be spoilers, because I even think the littlest thing, like there's another Fantastic Four video that dropped, and I'm not going to say it just in case you haven't seen it, but it just dropped like last night or something, and it reveals something that I wish I didn't know. But with this Fantastic Four movie, I guess they're just so convinced it's going to suck this badly that they're just trying to give us every little bit to be like, will you please come see this movie? Like, do you like it yet? So yeah, I'm going to get into my negatives here to start things off. So if you've not seen the movie, this is going to be, where it really, really starts with the spoilers. Guys, the controversy with Superman's birth parents. So yeah, the whole thing is Superman's got a message from his birth parents, and he thinks it's this message of hope that you're supposed to go to Earth and take care of everyone and be a beacon of good, and sort of be a beneficial savior, so to speak. And one of the big elements that's revealed in the plot is that once Lex breaks into the Fortress of Solitude and they're able to repair part of the message that Superman never heard because the message was damaged when he flew into Earth, as a baby, they reveal this second part of the message that's basically like, you are supposed to conquer them and be their king on this whole planet and procreate with women all over the world so you can repopulate and basically make like a new Krypton, essentially turn Earth into new Krypton. And that's one of the big like controversies, with the film, I would say. Big point of contention. It's interesting because the people, and I'll just preface this by saying, I don't know the comics like a crazy amount. I was more of a Marvel guy. I was more of like an X-Men, Spider-Man kind of guy when it comes to the comics. I've read some of the Batman graphic novels. I really dig those. I haven't read as much Superman, but I've seen some movies and some TV shows, and I read up on this stuff before I talk about it or just to get context. It's not the first time that there's been this kind of message with Superman's Kryptonian's parents. It's not the first time. So, in general, there is more of a hopeful message from them. However, the first time that I saw something like this was in the Smallville TV show. I don't know if it's like the 3rd or 4th season. Somewhere in there, Clark finds this cave, and it's essentially a cave where Jor-El left some messages for him. And in the Smallville show, spoilers for Smallville, you find out that Jor-El was like regularly visiting Earth and interacting with the native peoples in America. And you even get the idea that like skinwalker legends and myths and all that kind of stuff sort of come from Jor-El and Kryptonians visiting a pre-colonial America. And in those messages, Jor-El, played by Terrence Stamp, who played Zod in Superman 1 and 2 from 78, and I think 80 was when Superman 2 came out. He has a very similar message. He's basically like, they're beneath you. Like, you don't have to be a jerk about it, but you are absolutely superior and you need to rule these people. That's what we do. Because we have these powers, you need to take full advantage of them. So it's not the first time that I heard this sort of message. And I think in the broader context, and guys, I'll bounce on over to the chat once I sort of finish my point on all these things, and then it'll turn into more of a discussion. So if you have seen Superman, God, I hope if you're in the chat, you've already seen Superman, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But if you're here, you've either seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers. So let me know your thoughts on all this stuff as I'm talking about it, and then I'll hop on over to the chat and jump in and have that conversation with you guys. But I liked that they used this element in this story. I don't know if it fits every Superman movie. In fact, I know it doesn't, because in the original Superman films, yeah, they are very benevolent. At least Clark's parents are benevolent people. However, in this one, we do get a little bit of that darker side, that sort of, that Kryptonian superiority kind of thing. But I think what it does in this movie is it raises a very interesting question, and a question that is ultimately answered in the film. So narratively, it works. Nature versus nurture. Like, who are you really? Because Clark was raised by these farmers from Kansas, very sweet people. That's why he is as naive as he is in this movie. That's, I guess, maybe another little spoiler. Clark is very naive here. Superman's very naive. You can tell he hasn't ever really had a tough time with public image or with popularity until right when we, start this movie. So the way the movie starts is it's like 3 centuries ago, the first metahumans came to Earth. 3 decades ago, Kal-El was sent by his parents to Earth because Krypton was blah, blah, blah. 3 years ago, he announced himself as Superman. 3 months, it does all these 3s and 3s and 3s. And I kind of liked that whole thing. But, essentially, the idea that you get here throughout the movie and the realization that Superman / Clark has to come to at that like 2/3 mark, right before the third act kicks off, he's having a crisis, because not only is he finding these things out in real time with everyone else, he's being accused of knowing full well the entire time, pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. Lex convinces most people, the general population out there, and the government and the media, he convinces all of those people that Superman's known this the whole time, and that Superman's only been nice to us so far because he's grooming us so he can then flip that switch and have total dominance. So, you know, Clark is having like, I don't know if it's really like a crisis of faith, but it's definitely an identity crisis, right? And, you know, they get to a point, we'll get into some of this stuff later on, but they get to a point where they finally visit John and Martha Kent in Smallville. And there's a really great scene. Like, John and Ma and Pa Kent aren't in the movie too much. They really aren't. But they make it out of the movie, so we don't have to see Jonathan Kent pass away in this film, so that's great. And the amount that they're in the film, there's like a little bit of comedic element at the beginning in their first appearance. And then when we see them about 2/3 the way through, it's very impactful emotionally. And so they're only in the movie for a little bit, but I think they have a relatively big impact. There's an awesome scene between John and Clark out on the front porch during breakfast. And John, you know, Clark is basically like, I'm not who I thought I was. Like, these people that are my biological parents, like they sent me here for this totally different thing. And Jonathan Kent basically gives him the, you know, it's up to you. It's not up to parents to tell their kids how to live and what to be like. And ultimately, like, what you do with your life says more about you than anyone else could say about you, or that anyone, you know, if somebody's trying to make you something you're not, it's actually what you do that ultimately matters, which I think is a really good message. And they share that great moment right before, you know, all the action kicks off in the third act. And it's an awesome moment because I feel like that's when Superman really has his compass is facing true north after that moment. You know, he's, like I said, naive. He might be a little like too confident, but in a naive way. Like, he feels like, oh, no one's ever gonna not like me, and has like the worst week of his life, essentially. So I think, to bring it back to the controversy with the Kryptonian parents wanting Superman to ultimately rule over the world and create a harem and repopulate and make it new Krypton, I love how it ties into that nature versus nurture element that the film explores. And, you know, by the end of the movie, Superman has completed an arc and is a very different, you know, character, person than he was before. He knows who he is even more than he did at the beginning. And he wasn't like completely lost, but he finds his swagger, so to speak, by the end of the film. And I really like seeing that take place. I don't think you could have sold that as well without having something like this controversy with the Kryptonian parents. So I really appreciated that part about the film, and I'm curious to see what you guys are saying about it. We got Todd in the house. What's happening, Todd? Great to see ya. Marvel is going to spoil the entire Fantastic Four movie before it even comes out. They sure are. Blazing Asian says it didn't bother me, honestly, and I'm an OG Superman fan. Yeah. Ashton says, my only negative really was Lex. Nicholas was great in the movie, but I didn't completely like the way he was written. Yeah, let's talk about Lex, Ashton. And I'm not looking to like drone on all night here, guys. I figure, you know, hour and a half for this stream, so I don't, you know, it's not going to be too cumbersome or anything like that. I'm not going to go through and just tell you everything that happens in the movie. If you want to see that, I did that with Cecil over on the Horror Show channel. We did like an hour 15, and we basically go beat for beat with the movie. But I just wanted to cover some of the things I wasn't able to talk about the other night on the live stream with the panel that we had, and then just kick it with you guys for a few minutes. So yeah, crying Lex. And I guess we could just talk about Lex, you know, overall. How about that, Ashton? Crying Lex is really weird. I was totally cool with Superman crying when Molly gets executed by Lex Luthor, which is, we'll get into some of that stuff too. Superman cries because of that. Metamorpho starts crying, you know, because he's essentially being used to hold Superman prisoner. So I was cool with those guys crying. They're the good guys, right? Seeing Lex cry, and especially seeing him cry in front of Superman, I thought was very odd. I really didn't like it. I don't mind our heroes having that sensitive side. I just don't want to see the villains have that sensitive side unless they're going to truly make like a total like 180 turn and like become a good guy, you know? So I thought that was really odd. I think I said this in my non-spoiler review. I'm just so bored with Lex. I mean, look at all the Batman movies we have and then ask yourself how many times Joker is the main villain. It's like 2 of them. Two. That's it, right? Because he's in Batman 89. He is in Batman 66, but that's an ensemble of villains. And then he's in The Dark Knight. So Dark Knight and Batman 89 are the only 2 movies where the Joker is the main villain. But imagine if the Joker was the main villain in like 80% of the movies, because Lex was in Superman 1, Superman 2, Superman 4, Superman Returns, Batman v Superman, and again with James Gunn Superman. And it's just, to me, it's not that I think Lex is a bad villain or that he's boring or anything like that. I just know that Superman's got other villains in the rogues gallery, and I'm just a little tired on Lex, honestly. And another silly thing, maybe you agree with this, Ashton, I'm not sure, let me know in the chat. The whole like video game fighting with Ultraman was really odd. Like that was there strictly for children. You know, like Lex calling out like J24, B4, B9, A1, like, and having a whole team of people like using joysticks and programming like fight moves so that Ultraman, who is a clone, a more powerful, not as intelligent, more easy to manipulate clone of Superman. That's what we find out in the 3rd act, because he's completely covered up until that point. It was just really odd. I was like, I have less of a problem with Krypto, who I really enjoyed in this movie, and more of a problem with like the online video game kind of culture thing that they were sort of pushing there. I thought it was really weird. And especially there's a moment where right after Lex gives his big speech about like how envy drives everything that he does and how like he wants to throw up just like thinking about people mentioning his name in the same sentence as Einstein and Galileo and all that stuff. He has this awesome speech and then immediately is like, B4, looking at the screen. Like, it's really odd. It turned into like this esports kind of moment after a moment that I thought was like one of the stronger, dialogue moments in the film. And not all the dialogue is great here. I think James Gunn sometimes gets a little confused with what kind of tone he wants to portray. And he wants a little bit of everything, and sometimes it can be a little confusing. So we get things like Crying Lex, we get the video game stuff. Lex executes a guy that's a food vendor, a street vendor in Metropolis, just because they saw him interact with Superman once, so they got his ID. And Lex plays a Russian roulette game with this guy and blows his brains out on the second shot. So yeah, that's why in the panel for the non-spoiler, I was like, not that much different than Man of Steel, because this movie has some dark shit. There's some adult language. You see somebody get executed like that. And there are other elements like Superman turning himself into the government. There's like a scene just like that in Man of Steel, although the interrogation and all that stuff goes totally different. There's just some elements here where I was like, it's not so starkly different than the trailers necessarily made it look. But yeah, Lex was one of those things where the second time I watched it, if you guys saw my short after checking out the 3D IMAX version of the film, I enjoyed Nicholas Holt's performance more. It doesn't mean that I'm super pumped that Lex was in this film, because I'd still rather, work that in, maybe have Lex be working in the shadows. Kind of like how we found out. Not that I'm a fan of the Jesse Eisenberg interpretation from, Batman v Superman. I'm not the biggest fan of that. But as far as like the way the character, the things that the character did, I really liked. The performance choices from Jesse Eisenberg, I wasn't as big of a fan of, but those are his performance choices. That stuff, those little like, I doubt that stuff was written in the script. You know what I mean? But I like that idea, or I like the idea of Lex sort of playing puppet master and then revealing himself later. Now he definitely does play, you know, as the story goes on, we find out, or I guess like we sort of know or assume, if you know anything about these characters, even if you just know foundational baseline information, but everyone in the, you know, in the general population within the movie, they don't really know. But Lex has been playing puppet master, but he's front and center from the very, you know, first scene, really, because the very first scene, you know, Superman crashes to Antarctica, Krypto takes him to the Fortress of Solitude, they heal him up and everything like that. And at that time, he's already being pursued by the engineer. I believe her name is Angelina, or Angela. Yeah. The engineer has already spotted the Fortress of Solitude. They have a lock on where it is. She communicates with Lex, and we find out that Superman just got his ass kicked in Metropolis, and Lex has been orchestrating the whole thing. And Ultraman is the one wearing that big, like, juggernaut suit that you see in the trailer with, like, the laser beams and everything like that. He's just in a mech suit. Although he doesn't wear it for the entire film, pretty much just that scene. But yeah, you know, Lex Luthor is one of those characters here in this movie that just to wrap it up, I like Nicholas Holt's performance. Not super jazzed on Lex being in another movie, and really not jazzed on him crying. Disappointing stuff. And then, of course, the crying is undercut because after, you know, Superman has this great speech, Lex kind of throws it back in his face, and as soon as Lex like touches Superman's chest, like Krypto flies in, and we basically get the version of it's, you know, Hulk smashing Loki from the first Avengers movie. It's like the same friggin' thing. It is this in the middle of the speech gets interrupted kind of thing, and it just, you know, there's a lot of moments in the movie in general where a serious moment is undercut by a joke or something that's like relatively light and humorous. For me, not all of those like destroy the moment or anything, but yeah, crying Lex was very odd. Yeah, typical James Gunn humor. It either works or doesn't. I want to know why Jimmy Olsen is such a ladies' man. He must be packing heat. Yeah, I don't understand it either. Nerds always get the ladies or just a ladies' man. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be kind of funny. So I think Blazin', I think that's like almost kind of just a joke for us. Like we are supposed to wonder that and kind of laugh that all the hotties think that he's so hot, you know? So I think that's kind of where they're going with that. Just to round out my negatives here, Superman gets beat up a lot. I think it's fine because whenever he's getting beat up, it's Ultraman who's his clone. And technically, like Lex does say at the end of the movie, that he is technically more powerful. So it makes sense that Superman's getting beaten up, right? And then when Superman gives himself up to the government and they take him to the, why can't I can never remember what this thing is called. The in-between zone. What is that? Pocket universe. So when Superman gets taken into the pocket universe, you know, he's trying to cooperate and all that stuff. And then they, you know, make Metamorpho put him under green kryptonite. And so what are you supposed to do? I mean, Superman has like two weaknesses, like kryptonite and magic, as far as I know, are like the only weaknesses, or blocking out the sun or something. You know what I mean? Like it's very limited. So we can't get rid of those things. We can't do what Superman Returns did and act like kryptonite doesn't matter. So to me, it makes sense. And I guess if your gripe is that Superman has to keep on getting rescued by other people, if that's a problem for you, okay. Again, he's been doing this for about 3 years. He's starting to figure out who he is. And even though the Justice Gang are in this movie, and they may work together occasionally, they're not teammates. Superman's not part of the Justice Gang. You know, I would imagine down probably the next movie, they're going to call them the Justice League, and Superman will be there and all that kind of stuff. But right now it's Hawk Girl, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, and Mr. Terrific are the only ones in the Justice Gang. And they just, you know, they interact with Superman and they do heroic shit together, but Superman's not a part of that team. So, so him getting beaten up, at least in this movie, it kind of makes sense. Maybe one of the reasons people don't like this is going to lead right into our next topic here. Not enough Superman, ? I think that is a bigger or more valid gripe than him getting beaten up. There's a lot going on in this movie and a lot of different characters. And I do think that we get enough Superman, but I will say this movie could have been longer. And you guys know I'm such a runtime bitch. Usually I hate long movies. This movie's what, 2 hours, 9 minutes? That's with credits and everything like that. Man, this movie could have been 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 25 minutes. I mean, fuck, Terrifier 2 is 2 hours, 18 minutes. So it's 9 minutes longer than this Superman movie. And I think this movie could have been longer. You could have gotten more Superman. As far as him getting beaten up, you would have maybe put that amount of time on the, from the second into the third act. I think that would be a good move right there. And then we can just spend a little more time with him as he makes that realization and as he becomes a bit more of the badass that we sort of see at the end. But yeah, I definitely think this movie could have been longer. I still enjoyed it on my second viewing. I think that, 4 out of 5 stars is totally fair. I do think that Man of Steel is a better Superman movie, but I really do enjoy this one. I gotta say, it sat well the second time. I think the big thing for me is the second time seeing it, and granted, it was the day after I saw it the first time. I had all the same goosebump moments. It was, sometimes it was the John Williams soundtrack combined with what I'm seeing on screen. Other times there's I really liked the romance. Lois and Clark and Lois and Superman, I loved that dynamic. So I've got goosebumps in a couple of those moments. The parents, the sweet moment with, Pa Kent and Clark is very emotional. You might get weepy-eyed or you might cry, just depending on how much of a softie you are. But I definitely got goosebumps in those moments. And even when they're in the Pocket universe and they're floating down that proton river or whatever it's called, and they're about to fall into the black hole, and there's that stop shot, and then it's the slow motion, and Superman breathes, uses his breath into the black hole to help push them out, and we get that that swell of the John Williams score. Those are moments where I was just goosebumps all over the friggin' place. And when Lois and Superman kiss at the end of the movie, it was refreshing to see some tongue kissing. Especially, I hope this isn't controversial to say, you don't see a lot of heterosexual relationships in movies that are more than a head bump anymore. So for me, it was refreshing to see actual a little bit of making out there. And maybe it's just because of everything I've gone through in my life lately, but it definitely felt it awakened that hopeless romantic in me for sure, and made me feel hey man, true love can still exist. So yeah, all of those emotional beats and everything like that really worked for me. Most of the humor worked for me. I'm not sitting there cracking up out loud, but I appreciated most of the humor, especially Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. I think he does a great job with his timing and his cadence. The only thing I really didn't like about Green Lantern and Hawk Girl is I wish their costumes weren't so boring, gray, slate gray or concrete gray for the most part, with little highlights of their colors. I loved Mr. Terrific's outfit because I didn't know anything about Mr. Terrific until seeing that he was in this movie, but I went back and looked at him in the comics, and it's very comic accurate. He does actually wear a motorcycle jacket that says fair play on the sleeves and all that stuff. So that's very comic book accurate. I would rather see the Green Lantern wearing more green. He's got little highlights of green, but I want to see him in more of a green costume. It doesn't have to be the Ryan Reynolds CG costume, and it doesn't have to be as bold as that. It still could be your motorcycle kind of thing, but just more green would have been cool. These are kind of nitpicky things at this point. But yeah, those are the elements that really worked for me. And man, Mr. Terrific, probably my favorite part of the movie, other than the stuff that I expected. You know, like David Cornsweet is awesome as Superman and really good as Clark. For the little bit that we get of him as Clark, he's really good there as well. Rachel Brosnahan is my favorite on-screen Lois I've ever seen. She's just amazing in this movie. She's everything I want from the character. She's a really good journalist. She is smart. She's beautiful. She's also not afraid to get involved. She's always been that kind of spitfire, a spunky kind of gal like that. I really enjoy that part of her character. And she's got those tractor beam eyes that just pull you in and grip you. There are certain actors that are like that, you know, like James McAvoy, I think, and Michael Fassbender. There are these actors that just really pull you in with their looks, like the look that they're giving. There's just something that draws you in. And Rachel Brosnahan has that very much so here as Lois. So really enjoyed that. But yeah, Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. I talked about it a little bit in my non-spoiler review. Watching it a second time, I was like, this dude is the coolest dude. Love his voice, love his cadence. I'm so happy to see him in another Superman movie. I dug him as Darwin in X-Men First Class, but unfortunately he didn't make it all the way through that movie. And I think he's a really good performer. So it's great to see him here, whatever it is, 15 years down the road. And he, like, as far as everything I can tell from what I've seen in the comics, at least the iteration of Mr. Terrific that they're bringing over to the movie, he totally embodies this character. And you get to know very quickly not only what kind of person he is, but what his gifts are, what his superpowers are, all this really cool stuff. So I really love Mr. Terrific. I don't think anyone really stole the show here, because I think Superman is featured enough. But if you're going to say that there has to be a show stealer, it's maybe tied between Lois and Mr. Terrific. Although Krypto's pretty awesome too. Let me jump back into the chat, see what you guys are doing here. Also, it was weird that Lex hated Superman all because he had superpowers, made him seem kind of petty. Well, yeah, and I think that's sort of like Lex kind of admits that, right? Lex is basically like, yeah, I'm envious. Like I felt like I was king shit on this world, and then 3 years ago I found out that there was somebody better than me, because he says he feels the vomit coming up in his neck when people mention Einstein or Galileo in the same breath or sentence as Lex Luthor. So Lex thinks he's better than Einstein, better than Galileo, all that kind of stuff. So it really is. It's about the most petty thing it can be. But I think it's always kind of been that way. You know, Lex feels like he is Superman, like not literally Superman, but he does feel like he's the superior man. And then he finds out that he's not at all. What's happening, Jamie? We got our mama mod, the OG Death Squad mod. What's happening? Hope you are doing well, miss. One of our great channel members as well. We got Cody Snyder, another channel member and Death Squad mod. How you doing, Cody? Yes, time off, bye-bye. What are you going to do with your time off? Cody, are you headed out to California for a little something? Let me know. Hopefully you guys have seen Superman, because I've just been really talking about whatever. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really, that I wanted to dive into specifically on the spoiler side. I don't think so. Again, if you want a beat for beat, like retelling of the story and a dive into every single moment, Cecil and I did that. It's available on the horror show. So that's like an hour and 15 minutes. And we really go deep into everything. I will say this. I really enjoyed the scene where right before Superman turns himself into the government, he flies into his apartment and Lois is there, and they're talking about, like, they do the whole punk rock kind of discussion, which I thought was really interesting, because she's like, I grew up punk rock, and like, you're such a goody two shoes, and he's like, I'm punk rock, and she's like, no, you're not, and he's like, he starts naming off these like fictional bands, the PODs and the Mighty Crabjoys, and she's like, the Mighty Crabjoys suck, and he's like, a lot of people like them. And I'm like, it's so funny, because I've been on like both sides of that conversation, like the I'm too punk for you, and then I've also had people be like, you're not punk, you like NoFX is like, punk rock music for kids, or what. It's just so funny, like the dynamic of that kind of conversation. So it was a very relatable conversation for me. And then to going from that scene to after they rescue Superman out of the pocket universe, that whole action set piece is crazy. But after they rescue him from the pocket universe and they bring him to the Kent farm, Lois gets to walk around his room. It's just like it was when he left, I would imagine when he left for college or whenever it was, right? So he's got the Mighty Crabjoy's poster up there and just all sorts of, like, that was a moment, a moment I didn't expect to give me goosebumps, but it really did. Like Lois getting to see his childhood bedroom and, getting an even larger scope of what, where the man she's with comes from, right? So, and of course, I mean, if you've seen the movie, this, that Lois knows from the very beginning of the movie, Lois knows that Clark is Superman. It's something that's not hidden from her, at least. So, but really, it's just her and the Justice Gang and Ma and Pa Kent. They're the only ones that know. So, yeah, just a couple other moments there that really stood out to me, especially after a second viewing. I do recommend if you, like, I don't know. God, I hope that everyone that's in here has seen the movie. Antonis, I really appreciate you giving us the watch hours. And then, after you see the movie, come on back. What's happening, Jay Beach? How you doing? So good to see you. And yeah, that's a pretty, I don't know how much more I really got to go into as far as like spoilers and everything, unless you guys if there are certain moments that you guys want to talk about. I do think it's kind of funny that, so the whole movie, they have all of those cameras that are following Ultraman, and that's what helps Lex be able to make the fight moves and all that stuff. Not once during the movie does Superman ever think to like use his laser vision on those cameras and just like break them. But at the end, he has Krypto chase them all and wreck them all. So I guess it gives Krypto something to do. But I was like, why did Superman just do that? There, like, certain things stood out to me on the second time around where I was like, this is kind of interesting that that's what's happening now. That like Superman didn't take advantage of this power that he had earlier on in the movie. But I do think, just to touch a little bit on Corin Sweat's portrayal here, he nails every little emotional beat. I honestly don't think there was one bad performance in the movie. And I mean, if he doesn't work, then the whole movie doesn't work. So thank God for that. They really got it right with David Corin Sweat for sure. I haven't seen the movie, but I don't care about spoilers. Well, there you go, Jamie. And if you popped in just like, 5 or 10 minutes ago, you probably missed like most of the big spoilers. Other than that, it's just stuff I didn't want to talk about on the stream the other night. There are more superhero movies that I haven't seen, yet I'm excited to see this. Yeah, I recommend checking it out in the theater. I really do. I don't think it's for all the chatter that was going on Twitter and just online in general. I guess it's kind of funny because part of the plot of this movie is about using social media and the internet to manipulate the way people think and to make people not trustworthy, essentially, or to kind of like ruin people's character. It's really funny to me that this movie was like, before it came out, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be this drastically different kind of Superman thing. It's not going to be anything like Man of Steel, blah, 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 blah. And I think it does have some pretty dark elements that Man of Steel also had. But yeah, it's more of like the Boy Scout Superman. And I would say, in general, that's how Superman is usually portrayed in the original media in the comics. So not all the time, but in general, that's how he's portrayed. So I'm totally cool with Superman being more of being a Boy Scout more often than not. I love Man of Steel. I love the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman. And I really like Zack Snyder's Justice League quite a bit. Having said that, I'm totally cool with Superman reverting back to the Boy Scout version. Like, I think that's totally fair. That's kind of what we know him as. And yeah, I have no problem with that. But I would say that even if you're the biggest Snyder fan, or you're completely wary of what James Gunn might do to this character or do to this universe or do with this movie, I think you'll probably still have a good time if you're a Superman fan, for sure. I liked Corin Sweat, but I need to see more of him before I say he's my favorite, or one of them. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really tough to beat Christopher Reeve. Like, there's just something about Christopher Reeve's portrayal that's so chill and confident, and there is a regal nature to the way he played Superman, but not pompous. There's like this you know, like the benevolent prince kind of thing, you know? And I think the way that like Henry Cavill was written, or the way that version was written, is more of a god. You know, he's way more godlike in the Man of Steel and the Snyderverse, you know, and not only just the way that Henry looks and the way he's shot and all that kind of stuff. It's the way they wrote the story and the way the people in the globe look at Superman and look to him when they need a savior. And then this version is going a little bit more into that Christopher Reeve direction. I don't think that David nails exactly that tone that Reeve had, but again, he's Superman that's just 3 years in. So I don't know if he's supposed to be quite there yet. And I don't know, maybe this version of Superman is just never supposed to be like the Christopher Reeve version of Superman. But I would say, like, I really love Christopher Reeve. I mean, that's the one that I grew up with, especially those first two movies. I don't really care for the third or fourth movie very much. But I also really like Tom Welling in Smallville. He became a better actor as the show went on, and he looks so much like Superman to me. So I really love that. You know, I quite enjoy that show. It's my favorite version of Lex is Michael Rosenbaum's Lex from that show, because I love the relationship that Clark and Lex have in the show, the friendship that turns into something else, and that it's like Lex's feelings are hurt that he's not brought in, and that he's not trusted by Clark. You know, it's more of that than just like, I hate that you're better than me. It's more like, I love you and I feel like you're like a brother to me and you won't let me in, you know? So it's comes from a place of hurt more so than it comes from a place of jealousy. Although in Smallville, I do think there's a little bit of jealousy there because it's Lex and Lex is Lex. But yeah, favorite version. Yeah, he'd have to crank out a few more really great movies here. Great performances and really good movies, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I think the movie could have been a little bit better, but I think it's pretty dang good. I think 4 out of 5 stars for a superhero movie. I feel pretty good about that. Maybe if I watch it a few more times, maybe it would be like 3.5. You know, I'm curious to see how I'll feel about it in a year. How about that? That's what I'm thinking. What's happening, Dynamite Tiger in the chat? How you doing? MCU better hope Fantastic Four is a hit, because if every DC movie is like this, they might be in trouble sooner rather than later. I think Fantastic Four is it'll probably be number 1 in the box office, and it'll probably have the biggest drop off in week 2 that we've seen so far in 2025. Oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty, you guys. Well, Dynamite, you jumped in at the right time, because I'm pretty much done giving all the big spoilers, but I do want anyone that's in here, at any time I could say something that's considered spoiler, I am not going to preempt it by letting you know spoilers, because that right there says all the spoilers. So hopefully if you're in here, you don't care, you've seen it already. Yep, absolutely. Cody Reeve is still the king. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think he looks the most like Superman, and he just plays the kid. There's something so wholesome. Yeah, I really like Welling for sure. There you go. Reeve, Cavill, Welling. That's the order for Cody. That's a solid order. I need to rewatch Man of Steel. And I mean, I've seen Ultimate Edition. That's probably the one that I've seen the most out of Snyder's movies, is BVS Ultimate Edition. I really love that movie. But I need to watch his Justice League again as well. I'll never watch the Justice League one ever again. There you go, Cody and I. Hey, look at that. We agree more often than we don't, huh, Cody? I think so. It's about everyone's favorite Lex, but I agree he's the best by miles. Well, yeah, and you know, Smallville, especially after that first season, because the first season's kind of like Monster of the Week, sort of like the first season of Buffy. After that, it really starts to like develop into this really nice comic booky sort of soap opera, a great example of a TV show that I think works really well. And so it's no wonder that most people think about Rosenbaum, because you're able to really flesh that character out over years and like really complex stories. And he has so many ups and downs. It really is a great, I'll say it again, it's a soap opera. Reeve is my favorite, but I still think Brandon Routh was really good. I like Routh. Can't stand the movie. It's unfortunate, because I do think that Brandon Routh is really good with what he's given. He does a really good job of like imitating Reeve, because ultimately that's, you know, the goal of that movie is to be a follow-up to Superman 2. So I liked Brandon Routh's performance. I could not stand Kevin Spacey as Lex. That's a performance I don't like. I don't like the way he was written either. But just mostly, I don't like that. I mean, I don't like that movie, Jamie, but I know that you are a big fan. But yeah, nothing against Brandon Routh. I mean, what can you do? Reeve is still in my DNA, though, as an 80s kid. I'm right there with you. I was born in 82. Yeah. Yeah, he needed a better movie. I'd be interested to watch the performances because I know they did that Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW or whatever. And I've seen just the images of him as like the Kingdom Come version of Superman, with the red and black shield. I think it's red and black shield and like kind of the gray hair. And he's, a bit bigger now. He's just more of a, he's an older man. So like a bit more like barrel chested. I think he's got a great look for Superman. If you guys have seen that version, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and you're in the chat, let me know what you think of it. Maybe I can find a way to seek those out because I would like to see his return to the character for sure. See it here. No offense to the dude, but he did nothing for me. Yeah, I think he's fine, but he's like, the movie is just so underwhelming. Yeah, he definitely did something for me. Ow! Yeah, you like, you want a guy to watch you outside of your window. He's that kind of Superman. I don't hate it like a lot of people. I don't love it either. Yeah, I'm probably the biggest Superman hater out there, or at least I've never seen anyone that like gets the way that I get about it. There you go. Cool. Good to know, Dynamite. Yeah, it is a really good intro song. Yeah, like not my cup of tea as far as like music I would listen to like outside of that kind of setting, but it really is a great theme song. Yeah. Maxwell says, so after watching this new movie, who's your favorite Superman, Dave? It's still Christopher Reeve. I love those first two movies. Yeah, Christopher Reeve's my favorite. I need to see more from Corin Sweat just because I couldn't say he's... I don't know if I could even really rank him just based on one movie, but I really enjoy the performance. So I'm looking forward to more from him. Hopefully a more Superman-focused movie next time around would be really cool. Even if he ends up popping up in other movies as a bit role, I'd like to see, a sequel that's a bit more focused on him. But yeah, it's going to be Christopher Reeve would be my favorite. I might go the same as Cody, like Reeve, Cavill, and Welling. Maybe, yeah, it's tough for me to give Welling the nod over Cavill because I find film superior to television, and that the people that are in films versus the people that are in TV are also superior performers more often than not. That's the only Remy Zero song I know. Yeah, it's a really good one. Superman 2025 is a 4 out of 5 movie for me, says T. Parker Evans. I do prefer Man of Steel, especially the Hans Zimmer score, cinematography, direction, and Henry Cavill's performance. Yeah, I mean, the Hans Zimmer score, holy cow. You're going to have a tough time beating that guy's music. I watched F1 a couple weeks ago, and F1 was a really good movie for what it is, for a topic that I know nothing about. It kind of felt like a Rocky movie, but with F1 racing. It's essentially that's really what it felt like. It's like a Rocky passing of the torch, because it's so crazy. And now I feel like we have a few of those Rocky movies that are passing of the torch, because technically Rocky 5 is like that. Rocky Balboa in a way sort of feels like that, and then you got Creed and all that. So I would say F1's kind of like that, but the thing that stood out most to me, Hans Zimmer's music, really, really good shit. And yeah, I think Man of Steel for me is probably going to be like a 4.5. Same thing with the Ultimate Edition of BVS. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that you dig it as well, T. I keep bouncing back and forth between Man of Steel and Superman. I should have waited a few days to do my ranking. Well, here's the thing, Ashton. You can always revisit it, next year or the next time a movie comes out. Those things are I've done a ranking of what I did Friday the 13th. I did a Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, all that kind of stuff. Subject to change, bro. Whenever you want to, really. But some of those movies... I used to really love Freddy's Revenge. And then the more and more I watch Nightmare on Elm Street, all those movies, the more I realize I'm not as hot on that one. I'm actually liking Nightmare 4 more than I ever did before. So like some movies just kind of slide around. But I would be, if I had both movies here in front of me right now, Man of Steel and Superman, and you asked me to pick one to put on, I'd probably put on Man of Steel. I'd probably want to like bask in that world more likely than 2025, although 2025 is very good. What's happening, Mark? How you doing, bud? So great to see ya. What Superman did better than Man of Steel for me is Lois Lane. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I even think the romance is done better in Superman 2025 for sure. Yeah. Although I guess in Man of Steel, they're like just kind of meeting, really, right? Or it's starting. In this new Superman movie, you find out like in the second or third scene that they've been dating for 3 months. 3 months and she already knows who he is. Dude, that's like telling someone you love them, like, in the second week of dating. That's a lot of trust right there. Brandon Routh was good in the Crisis crossover as well. It actually had quite a few cameos, but I'm not going to spoil it in case you watch it. Well, thank you so much. I should just read about it. I mean, at this point, it's like, I guess, if I cared that much to have it not be spoiled, I should have watched it when it came out because it's been years, right? You can't go wrong with Hans Zimmer. Loved his music in the second Sherlock Holmes movie. Hans the Beast. Yeah, he is. I mean, every movie he's scored, even like if you go back to like Thelma and Louise and he's got like a jangly guitar, kind of bluesy guitar sort of score. Hans is not just the kind of guy, like he has gone through so many different like renaissances of style and flavor. And he truly is like, he is the maestro when it comes to scoring a film. I mean, John Williams is like the GOAT if you're talking all time. It's tough to not say John because of all the amazing themes that he's racked up in like the 50 plus years that he's been scoring films. But I do think that Hans is more diverse in instrumentation and style. And while John Williams is maybe more recognizable because he's always kind of using that orchestra, I love that Hans is a bit of a chameleon. Really. I mean, he is. Like, go look at his IMDb. And there's going to be some movies in there where you're like, really? He did that one? I thought the movie was a messy burger, but I love the casting and music, says Aburdity. Especially thought Mr. Terrific shined. Yes. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Mr. Terrific. That is one of my favorite aspects of the film. I think he is the coolest dude in the world. I can't wait to see more of him. I would totally be down for a Mr. Terrific movie, or if they end up doing a Justice League movie here pretty soon, or they want to do like a Justice Gang movie and give them the proper name. Because yeah, in this movie, you do see the Hall of Justice being built. It looks great. It looks comic book. It looks just like the comic book. And I guess it's based on like, it's, I don't know if it's a courtroom or a transportation center, like in Cincinnati, that they used like the actual building, but it looks just like multiple iterations of the Justice League that I've seen in the comics and in the cartoons. So yeah, Mr. Terrific's awesome. Eddie Gathegi, so friggin' good. Really charming performance from Mr. Terrific, and the most badass dude in the entire movie. I think actually most of his jokes and his quips were the funniest because he's deadpan, because he doesn't show very much emotion. But it's not like Drax the Destroyer where he doesn't show emotion and he's dumb. It's like Mr. Terrific really is the smartest man on the planet and doesn't show emotion because he just is like, he doesn't have time. T says, I need to watch Superman 2025 again, Ashton. It's a bit bloated, and some of the plot and plot convenience didn't work for me, like Rex Mason Metamorpho just helping Superman too fast. That was a pretty quick turnaround. It was, yeah. T, I had mentioned how odd I thought it was that Superman didn't use his laser vision to destroy the cameras that are floating around Metropolis all the time whenever he's fighting Ultraman. He had to sick Krypto on the cameras. He couldn't just go bzz, 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 bzz. Like, well, there you go, done. Also, Superman was a bit too mad and still feels inexperienced for his third year in comparison to Cavill's, who was calm and in control of the situation during his first year. Yes, and I think what I picked up on the second time watching the movie, T, was even though he's in his third year, he's never had a bad day. He's had a very easy go at it. And Lex has like just within the last few weeks started to make his life complicated. So I think that's kind of what they're getting at. But yes, if I have to pick up on it on a second viewing, then that probably means they should have made that a little more clear with the story. Yeah, it is pretty bloated. And I guess I don't mind him being mad in those moments. They work better in context. Now, when we just saw the trailer, him like getting pissed off at Lois during the interview, and then the little snippet they were showing on the late night talk shows where he's yelling at Lex over Krypto, out of context, those moments don't work as well for me. But in context, they didn't seem as jarring. I'll just say that. They seem to fit a little bit better. Even though the interview is relatively early on in the movie, I already kind of felt like I was getting settled in with those characters. Probably because Rachel Brosnahan is so friggin' charming in this movie. And what I love about Rachel is, yes, she is beautiful. She's not this like, it's cool though. She's like this very, I don't know if understated beauty is the right word or, you know, the right way to say it, or if it's just like kind of girl next door. She's very beautiful without it being like flashy and without it looking like too like influencer Instagram model, like, you know, like Eve, Miss Tessmacher, you know, Lex's girlfriend who really wants to be with Jimmy Olsen instead. She's got like the hot girl face, you know what I mean? Like, or Cat Grant, you know, white hair, big old boobs, works at the Daily Planet. She's in here a little bit. Those two girls have more of like the hot girl look, whereas Lois is like, yes, I mean, she is absolutely like one of the most beautiful women I've seen as far as actresses go, but it's not like this flashy, I don't know. There's just something so normal and just very beautiful about her. And dude, the looks that she gives and her eyes, they really are tractor beams. Maybe that doesn't work for everyone, but there are certain performers with me where they just really pull me in. Maybe it should have been called Super Friends. Well, yeah, they're kind of going that way, it looks like, a little bit. However, Lex Luthor is the better villain, even though General Zod was great. It's just Nicholas Hoult stole the movie for me. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that earlier, T. I really like Nicholas Hoult's performance. I'm so sick of Lex, though. It really did, and maybe the next, you know, when you see this a second time, if you're going to go another time, think about this. When he gives his whole envy speech and is telling Superman like why he hates him so much, right after that speech, he's like, B4, 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 and they do like the video game, you sunk my battleship, guys with joystick. Like it's so weird to me. These great like monologue moments, these moments that made me feel grounded, like I was starting to buy the character. And then it turned into something where they really are just trying to appeal to children that play video games online. So, and then another point that I mentioned earlier, sorry for everyone that's been here the whole time, but Jesus, Lex is in so many of these fucking movies and I'm just sick. I'm sick of him. Like you're really not going to impress me with Lex, but you cannot upset me with Lex. And they didn't upset me with Lex here. So good on Nicholas Hoult. I thought he was really good. I would say that if anyone stole the movie for me, it would be Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. That would be the show stealer because he was the character that I wanted to be. He was the coolest, most capable character. I was like, I want to be that guy. That guy's cool as fuck. I'm still thinking about Supergirl. Can't wait for her movie next year. Yeah, guys, let's talk about Supergirl. We didn't do that. So, thank you for bringing that up, T. Let's. I'm gonna get a little banner going here, just for if anyone that watches after the fact or whatever, or jumps in right now. So Supergirl shows up at the very end of the movie, not in a post-credit sequence. Guys, there's a mid-credit sequence and a post-credit sequence. You don't have to stay for either one of them. They're not consequential. The mid-credit sequence, I think that's just like Krypto and Supes. They're like sitting on the moon, looking at Earth. I think there's a picture out there of like a still that's been out there for months, and it's basically just that shot of Krypto and Superman looking at Earth from the sky or from space. And then there's a post-credit sequence where, you know, there's this rift. That's basically what Lex did is he, you know, opened up this pocket universe portal that had closed in on itself, and when he opens it, it opens a black hole like right where that portal was. So right outside of Metropolis, this this black hole starts to open up and it starts to split the land, and that's like your big cataclysmic event. Which, by the way, that was another thing that reminded me of Man of Steel, because there's no way, they said it was a citywide evacuation. There's no way they got everyone evacuated. There's no way that thousands of people didn't die when Metropolis got split in half. So even though they don't actually show it as brutally and as obviously as they did in Man of Steel, I'm not buying that thousands of people in Metropolis didn't die when Lex split the city in half. So anyways, there's, this rift is opened up, and they find a way to close the portal, close the black hole, and everything just kind of goes back together in a rough sort of way. And so in the post-credit sequence, it's Superman and Mr. Terrific, because Mr. Terrific, he's the computer genius. He can like hack into everything and fix stuff and all that kind of stuff. So they're looking at this one building, and the building, it's like just slightly off. Like the seam is just a little bit off, and Superman's like, huh. And Mr. Terrific's like, what? And he's like, it seems like it's a little bit off. And Mr. Terrific's like, what? He's like, do you want me to take it apart and then put it back together again? And Superman's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like, you did a great job. And Mr. Terrific's like walking off, and he like literally kicks a rock, and he's like, damn. And they go back to Superman. He's looking at the building. He's like, I'm such a jerk sometimes. So it's like a really funny moment between them, but it's nothing that's consequential. But Supergirl, she shows up at the end of the movie, drunk as shit. And she shows up to pick up Krypto, because Krypto is her dog. It's not Superman's dog. And she calls Superman a bitch. She's like, see you later, bitch, and all that kind of stuff. You find out the reason why Krypto is so unruly is because she doesn't discipline Krypto. And it's a very small appearance, but I do think it's pretty cool that they brought her in there, because she looks great in the suit. The suit is it looks like it fits with Corrin sweatsuit. It looks like, same material, same kind of, I don't know, like some of the colors look muted, some of them look bright, just the same kind of color and same kind of tone and everything. And I think a Supergirl movie could be really good, especially if she is like a party girl going into the movie, right? And then we can see hopefully an arc, by the end of the movie, she grows up a little bit. Maybe Krypto's a little bit more well behaved, so the next time we see him, join up with Superman in the Justice League or something, he's a little more dependable, but still has that little bit of fire in him, So I think the way they set up Supergirl here, I am looking forward to seeing what they do with the movie. Now, the guy that's directing the Supergirl movie, I think he did like the Cruella movie, and he's done some other stuff. I don't know. Like I don't think I've seen any of the movies he's done. Lars and the Real Girl, that was like one of his first films. So hopefully, I would imagine James Gunn is going to oversee all of these things. And, since he's executive producer, I would imagine he'll be able to help these guys out if they need any guidance, just to make sure that everything's consistent with the kind of universe that he's trying to build. So I am looking forward to Supergirl. What do you think, T? It looks like you're still thinking about her. Can't wait for a movie next year. So you are excited, I would imagine, right? Supergirl goes to rehab, the motion picture. Seated on day one. Yeah, it's definitely going to have that arc. You can tell. Yeah, well, and to my point, though, T, Joker has been the main villain in 2 Batman movies. So Batman 66, it's an ensemble. Batman 89, he's in there. So that's 2. Batman Returns, not in there. Batman Forever, not in there. Batman and Robin, not in there. Batman Begins, not in there. The Dark Knight, in there. Dark Knight Rises, not in there. Man of Steel, or no, sorry, not Man of Steel. Batman v Superman. Oh, okay, that's not a Batman movie. The Batman. So we got what, 9 movies? Joker's in 2 of them as the main villain. 2. Lex is only not in Man of Steel and Superman 3. Fucking crazy, right? Crazy. It's just way too much. It's boring. It's way too much. Yeah, I don't know anything. Like, I've never seen her in anything. But she's got a good look. Yeah, she's definitely got a look. She looks really young, and I like that, because you want some of these characters to be able to, or these actors to be able to grow into the characters as well. And you know, you would feasibly, I would imagine, you'd want an actor to be able to play a character for at least 10 years. If it goes well, you want like at least 10 years out of them, right? Zod does always deliver in these movies. I think Michael Shannon's a fucking terrific actor, and so I love Zod. And I love the conundrum that Zod puts up against Superman in Man of Steel. You know, like the "you really don't belong here. You are one of us," and like, don't you want to belong kind of thing, you know? Yeah, I prefer Zod over Lex too, but I don't think we've seen, you know, so if they don't bring back Lex for the next Superman movie, and then maybe he comes back in a third movie, and, you know, I know that at some point in the comics, Lex does have a redemption arc. Are we going to see Lex redeem himself? I guess at this point, if you're going to keep on putting him in movies, I want to see something different. And even though this time he is trying to get half of a made-up country, he's trying to become king of a country that he's basically working with a foreign leader to invade another country in exchange for half of the land. I hate all the whole real estate scheme thing. Like in Superman Returns, it's the same kind of stuff that Lex wanted to do in the original Superman film series. So I'm ready to see Lex not be obsessed with real estate in these movies as well. Terrence Stamp as Zod is one of the greatest casting choices ever. Michael Shannon was great too. Yeah, and Terrence Stamp came back in Smallville and played Jor-El. Thought that was pretty cool. See here, Cruella was great. Okay, the director also did I, Tonya. Okay, sweet. If T. Parker trusts him, then I don't see any reason why I shouldn't. I think you've got pretty good taste, T. And the sad thing is, as often as they use Lex, I don't think they've ever done the character justice. Yeah, I mean, it's rinse and repeat. It's the same version of Lex we keep on seeing, other than Michael Rosenbaum and Jesse Eisenberg. And, you know, just for anyone that missed when I was talking about Jesse Eisenberg's Lex, I really like the way the character's written. Like, I like his approach and his puppet mastery in Batman v Superman. I'm not as pumped on the way that Eisenberg plays the character. But I do like Lex when he's sort of not really trying to be in the middle of it. He's trying to be like, he's like the guy. It's like a high school friend group, and he's the one that like talks shit on both sides and makes two people hate each other because he created a misunderstanding. And they never even really had a beef, but he made them think that each other had a beef with one another. That's what I like about the way they wrote his character in BBS. I'm probably the only one here that likes Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze, aka Ghost Rider. Yeah, I don't really dig those movies. But yeah, I would rather see Nicolas Cage as Superman than see another Ghost Rider movie. Maybe not though. All right, guys, what do we got? About an hour 15. I don't think I have any more spoilery stuff to talk about. We can hang out for a few more minutes. I know it's just a handful of people kicking it here. Let me check on the poll. How would you rate James Gunn's Superman? 16 votes. 38% of you say 5-star. 31% say 4-star. 19% say 3, and 12% give it a 2-star or lower. So I'm going to end that poll there. So most people find the movie favorable. 4 or 5 stars. 68% of you say 4 or 5 stars. So that's pretty sizable there. Pretty sizable. I don't even know, Jamie, I don't know if I've seen those movies not on television. I think I've only seen them like I worked at an auto shop and they're like on the TV with commercials and stuff. So I didn't even really get to like pay attention to too much. But I love Nicolas Cage's I'm Ghost Rider. I'm out of breath all the time. I'm Superman. That's my Nicolas Cage impression right there. But yeah, guys, what do you got for me? What you got? Saw both movies at the drive-in, so technically at the theater. Do you consider the drive-in a theater? Or maybe the theater has to be enclosed, huh? Well, that's a good question. Theater would be enclosed, right? Who will end up doing better at the box office, Superman 2025 or Fantastic Four? I feel it could be Yes. I think Fantastic Four is going to have a good weekend. I don't think it's going to have a great weekend. And then I think it's going to drop right off. Big time. Yeah. I think Superman will dominate, you know, obviously number one this past weekend. I think it's going to be number one the following weekend as well. Because I don't see I Know What You Did Last Summer, you know, getting close to the top. I really don't. I am going to check out I Know What You Did Last Summer Thursday at 2 p.m. So I'll do an out-of-theater reaction, and I'll record a review that night, a non-spoiler review for you guys. So you can hear my thoughts there. Drive-ins count? All right. Enclosed by my Subaru. There you are. Subaru. Yeah, T. I think Superman's going to absolutely kill it here. But yeah, guys, I'm trying to think of what else I got for you this week. I probably will put together either a live stream to cover and just talk about Mad Monster and actually just be able to like showcase some of those pictures, you know, during the live. And other than that, tomorrow night over on Pat That Halloween Movie Collectors channel, I'm going to be watching Land of the Dead with Pat and Brett. So let me bring that up. I'm going to actually share that in the chat here. So there we go. How are you doing, Herbert? What's happening, bud? Great to see ya. So there you guys go. If you don't already have your notification bell or notification hit for that stream, there it is right there. Check out Pat That Halloween Movie Collector. I will be, I believe it's 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, 20th anniversary of Land of the Dead, which is a George Romero zombie film that I really love and enjoy more and more every time I watch it. And I know that Jamie Hart here in the chat is a big fan as well. The only thing I'm curious about, says T, about Fantastic Four is how it will lead to Doomsday. Do you want my prediction, T? I've got a prediction. Let me know. I'll throw that out there since we're talking comic book movies here. But yeah, Jamie, are you going to join us for Land of the Dead? Join us in the chat. Hang out with us a little bit. I know you're a big fan. I know you're a big fan. Can't believe it's been 20 years, says Todd. Yeah, it's wild, dude. 20 years since Land of the Dead. I know. I saw that at the Cinerama in Hollywood. Tony Todd was at the theater. It was wild. Okay, so here's my prediction for Fantastic Four and how it's going to lead into Doomsday. So I think, and we may not find this out during the movie, but I think the Tony Stark version of Doctor Doom is living in this Earth, this version of Earth that the Fantastic Four are in. So I think they're coexisting on this planet. They may not know each other exists. And I think Galactus is going to eat the hell out of this planet for sure. Galactus is going to cause, by way of eating the planet, see, a couple of things are going to happen, because in Thunderbolts, in the post-credit scene, we saw the Fantastic Four's spaceship coming into our, you know, crossing dimensions into our world. And it had the Fantastic Four logo on it. So we can assume the Fantastic Four is on that ship. However, maybe Doctor Doom is on there too. Or Victor Von Doom. Or Doctor Doom has used his magic to cross through a dimensional portal. Fantastic Four have fled this Earth. Galactus has eaten it. They're coming to our Earth as refugees, apparently, much like Superman coming from Krypton. They're looking for their second chance. Doctor Doom comes from that very same world. The reason why he hates and doesn't trust and wants to defeat the Fantastic Four and any of their allies is because he knows them as these cowards that abandon his world, and how he lost everything is basically because of these people. So that's how I think it's going to all tie into Doomsday. There you go. We'll see. We'll see. That was just the very first thought I had, especially after watching Thunderbolts and seeing that post-credit scene. Bring your kryptonite. Well, if you're Metamorpho, you can just imagine that you have kryptonite as a, I guess it's a left hand in the movie. Man, I'm old. I remember seeing Day of the Dead at the drive-in, says Todd. Jealous. I really wish I could have seen that movie in the theater. It's, as you guys know, my favorite zombie movie. All right, guys, I think that will wrap it up here. Let me just grab a couple of these. T. Parker says only 2 weeks of seeing Pedro Pascal advertised all over the internet and in trailers before his hiatus. Oh, he'll be back. I mean, what, Materialist? He already had that. No, it's not. We don't even get a hiatus, T, because he was in Materialist, then it's Fantastic Four, and he's in that Eddington movie. We're never going to get rid of this guy. We're never going to not see his face all over the place, unfortunately. There it is. Slam dunkin', Jamie. I've never been to a drive-in, J Beach. Maybe I should do that. Guys, if I went to the drive-in, would you want me to, you know, obviously I'm not going to do this like during the movie, although I guess it doesn't matter, especially if I go see, you know, like an older flick. Would you want me to do like a little live stream or document it somehow, share that with you guys? Because never been to a drive-in in my life. Maybe I should check that off the list and share it with y'all. Oh, Eddington's this week. Okay, so Eddington, then Fantastic Four, and then we get a little break. It's this Thursday. This Thursday, Jay, is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to see Eddington. I worry that it's going to be like this. I worry about the messaging in a movie about COVID. I don't know if I'm really interested in anyone from Hollywood's 2 cents on that one. They kind of botched that whole thing, you know, socio-political wise when it all happened. They were absolutely on the wrong side, most of them. So I don't know if I care to see their movie. Yeah, kind of wild stuff. But yeah, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up. What else? I thought I saw. Oh. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're not subbed, I think all you guys are subbed, so keep it up. Drop a comment if you're watching this after the fact. Maybe you missed this stream because you hadn't seen the movie yet, but you have plans on checking it out. Jump on into the comments and let me know what you think of Superman, and give me all your spoilery thoughts, your pros, your cons, what you want to see from Supergirl, what you want to see from Superman moving forward. And let me know if you're excited about this, you know, next venture or this reboot try of the DC cinematic universe. Very curious to know. Yeah, 18th. So I think 17th is technically when we can start watching it. But you guys have been awesome. Really appreciate all the Patreon members and the channel members, of course, and our amazing YouTube mods hanging out here. Jamie Hart, Cody Snyder, I believe, were our 2 mods in the chat. I will be back tomorrow night on Pat That Halloween Movie Collectors page, so I will share that as a post so you guys can all make sure to follow that and hang out and watch Land of the Dead with us. It'll be a really good time. I love that movie, so we'll be, you know, tossing out all sorts of trivia and having a blast. The crew over there that hangs out in the live streams are really cool. So if you guys don't know those guys, we've got some of them do hang out over here as well. I'm sure you guys know, like, you know, Jordan Decker and Bill Frickenstein and Brett Patrick and all those guys. But they'll be kicking it with us as well. I mean, Brett is in the chat and on the channel, so he's all over the place. But yeah, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for joining me for all the spoilers of James Gunn's Superman for 2025. I'll be back on this channel on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern for Late Night with the Davey. And I'm still figuring out what to do. I do have a guest lined up. I'm going to see if maybe I can push that for a week so I can advertise them a little bit more, because they are an artist on Instagram whose work I really love, and I'd like to promote the show a little bit more. Mad Monster kind of took up even more of my weekend than I had anticipated. And I think on Wednesday, it might be kind of fun to use Late Night with the Davey to sort of, you know, talk to you guys about Mad Monster and show off some footage and fun pictures and all that good stuff. So, having said all that, you guys are absolutely amazing. I love you all. And until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.